when you go through a mental health crisis, specifically like whatever is bothering you, whether it's anxiety, depression, a bipolar episode, it takes more than just a couple of moments for that to subside. And what I mean by that is, for me, I've recently had a series of like panic attacks, 2 that were fairly large, and I equate it to like an earthquake in a way. When you think about an earthquake, there's the big one, right? The one that was registering high on the Richter scale, and then there's the aftershocks, the small ones, the ones that maybe not displace everything, but you can feel it. That's kind of what I equate this to, because when you have an anxiety attack, a panic attack, it takes more than that moment for that to go away. Like you have ways to cope with it, you have ways to calm yourself down. Sometimes it just doesn't go away. And when it finally does, well, then you have to deal with kind of the aftermath of that. And for myself, when I hit a point where an anxiety attack is going to happen, my thinking is just winding up. I have the anxiety attack. I'm aware of it, okay? I know how I should cope with it. I know what I should do to help myself kind of overcome that. Those are good things. But when it finally stops, when it's coming downhill, I cannot express how much emotional exhaustion that it does to me, because my mind is just going 100 miles an hour, and like I have physical symptoms. I'm breathing heavy, my chest is starting to hurt. The exhaustion that comes from after that is heavy. The only thing I can do is rest, lay down and just rest, because my brain is so tired. My body is so tired from after that's all I can do. And I've struggled with that for a long time, because I feel unproductive. I feel like I'm not doing anything. But really, that's a recovery. That's a recovery from a fairly heavy thing that goes on inside of you. And this can be from anything. Depression, it can be from any mental illness you can think of. That exhaustion that comes after that, you have to recognize that it's exhaustion, and then you have to say, okay, that there's not something wrong with me. This is just a process I have to understand that I got to get through. And you can't run from these. You can't run from these, because all you're doing is putting it on pause. So if you have an anxiety attack and you cope and everything, and you know that you're mentally exhausted, but you're still pushing through, all you're doing is delaying it. And your recovery is going to be doubled, because you're just pushing it away. Now, I get, for some of us, if we have an anxiety attack at work or in a place that we're not able to rest right away, I get that, okay? But I'm saying when you have that opportunity and you choose not to do that, then you're just compounding it. You're just making it worse. And you could go right back into an anxiety attack, because you're not allowing yourself to rest from mental exhaustion. Emotional, mental exhaustion, I would say it's the same thing. I experienced that yesterday, and man, I don't usually get migraines, but I had one, and it was severe. I mean, my head was just pounding. I even threw up, and those are all, that can all be from migraines. There's different symptoms that go along with those, but that's what it was from. It was like I made myself to the point of where I was just physically sick, and I had to just rest, and I needed it, and it was helpful. I woke up today and I felt a lot better. But when you go through those periods, you just got to let them happen. You just got to let it happen. You can't fight it anymore. Fighting it is what puts you in a place of struggling with it in the first place. Not accepting what is happening, not allowing yourself to be aware of it, to cope with it. You fight these instances by coping with it. You let it happen, because it's going to happen regardless. Let go of control, allow it to happen, cope with it, okay? When you're having an anxiety attack, I don't care how strong of a person you think you are, you're not going to stop it from happening. You're just not. So just part of fighting this is just letting it occur, coping with it, calming yourself down, and then going through this process of recovery. I thought I'd share that because that's very real for me, and with my personality type, and I kind of strive for success in a lot of things. So if I'm ever unproductive, it makes me feel like I'm not doing whenever I think I'm unproductive, it just doesn't put me in a very good mood. But when I recognize that it's needed, it's different. So as you experience the highs and lows of this, just know that there's different ways to cope. There's different ways to handle these things. And I'm just going to tell you what has happened with me and what works for me, because I want you to know you're not alone, especially when it comes to anxiety or panic attacks. Those are very real. So it kind of sets me into this next thing that I want to talk about, and promise me I will get to core values. This kind of sets the stage for it. But as I was thinking about stigma and how I want to change it, and I want to completely make mental illness like normalized, because it's what it is. It's no different than a physical illness. I follow a lot of things in social media, and there's things that people post that are helpful for mental health awareness and things like that, which are nice. But you come across things where it's like if somebody has suicide ideation, they're just wanting attention. If they're this, then they must be doing that. No shit is what I'm going to say, because what do you think led us there in the first place? When somebody is going through suicide ideation, it's because they feel so lonely and they feel like they are such a burden that the world would be better off without them. So yeah, they are crying out for attention. They're crying out for somebody just to see them. So the next time anybody wants to say that, first of all, you're ignorant. Second of all, yes, but that's not the way that you're thinking. They're not just doing it to have people feel sorry for them. They're doing that because they actually want somebody to see them and say, hey, I can see your struggle. How can I help you? That's it. So if anybody ever says, oh, it's a cry for attention, well, yeah, no kidding. What do you think led them there? So, I mean, and trust me, I've been on the opposite end of that before. I've had these things happen to me. When you're raised, tough or whatever, you just think that you can overcome it, and you shouldn't show it. You shouldn't show the struggle. And trust me, I've said those things. I don't anymore. But just what you're really doing, if for somebody that wants to be ignorant and say that, is you're really just showing your lack of empathy, because you would want somebody to see you if you were dealing with it. You would want somebody to be there for you. So what's the difference? If they're crying out for attention, how does that affect you? What they're asking for is somebody just to see them. So just be there. Just be there, or find somebody who wants to be there with them. But don't just make them feel like even more like a problem. That's not going to solve anything. That's going to just make it worse. Drives me crazy. As you can see, I'm really passionate about this, and I try not to get angry and bitter. So I work out and stuff, but I'm at a point where I want to help one person know that they're not alone, and that whatever fight they're fighting, I'm fighting one too. And my fight's not greater than yours. Your fight's not greater than mine. That's what it is a fight. And so when in this really goes for anybody, but in all walks of life, okay, we have to find our true north. People are like, what is he talking about? So just bear with me. If anybody's ever held a compass or has seen how a compass works, we just know that it's always going to point north. We just know. Whether or not we know how that actually happens. In case you're wondering, it has to do with the magnetic poles of the earth. Look it up. It's actually quite educational. But we look at a compass, and when we feel like we're lost, we're like, well, I know that, I know where north is. I know where it's at. You just got to turn your compass and find that's where north is. And this is powerful because in our lives, when you lose a sense of yourself and you are overcome with these mental breakdowns, mental illnesses, you kind of lose your true north. You're lost. You don't know where to turn. Another thing with compasses, and this is big, is if you're in an area where there's like other magnetic pulses, we'll say, that can kind of turn the tables. They can kind of make north stray left or right. You'll see it on the compass kind of flicker a little bit. What it's trying to do is it's trying to pull towards that. And that's no different than our own lives. I've had so many things try to pull me in a different direction where I thought that was north and it wasn't, because it just shot right back up. It's really simple, but it's a very powerful thing. You have to find your true north and you have to stick to it, because that's who you are. That's what this whole thing is about. Is we're just trying to find our true north by really digging inside of us, our personality types, just everything. We want to know ourselves so intimately that we know what true north is, and that no matter what, nothing's going to pull away from that. Some things may try. You may have a flicker every now and then to your true north, but it's going to stay there. It's going to stay. It's not going anywhere. That's part of the fight too, is knowing that you're on the right path. To do that, that's why we're doing these things. So when it comes to core values, this is setting the stage of, think about what points to your true north. Think about what points to who you are, what is harmonized with your personality, all these things, because that's what's going to lead to you staying on that path. So that's why I'm so adamant about just not listing off core values that make you feel good, but ones that actually complement who you are from a personality standpoint, because it's going to matter, and it's going to matter when you're tested. When everything's going good, I mean, nothing's testing you. So you can have every core value in the book, because it's not, there's nothing going wrong. When you're in the battle, when you're being tested, that's when your core values really shine, because that's going to show your true north. So think about these things. Think about them, because they're big. And I try to relate to people. I try to draw these metaphors that just come to me randomly, because it makes sense to me. Hopefully it makes sense to you. But it's good to visualize this, because even go buy a compass, or print off a picture of one and just post it and just put true north. It's just a good reminder. Get a compass on your phone. So, just know that you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. Some of your mental stuff's going to, your illnesses, what comes with that, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. Don't think it's a step backwards, because it's not. You can't approach this like, I'm never going to struggle with mental illness again. That's, you're setting yourself up for failure there. You got to know when it does happen, this is what I can do, because it's going to happen. Okay, it's going to happen. Hopefully you're taking meds. Hopefully you're balancing your body right with a healthy diet and exercise, all those things. You have good coping skills, but it's going to happen. There's nothing wrong with you. It just happens. And it's because you let your walls down. Okay? Man, this was big, because I've had walls up for so long, and those walls were anger, bitterness, irritability, and I want to call it stonewalling. I just stonewall everybody. But I had these 4 walls up forever, and that just kept everything inside of me. All my struggles inside of me. Nobody, unless you really, really knew me, nobody knew. When those walls imploded, now it's you feel these things, and you feel like something's wrong with you, but you're not. You're just allowing these emotions to take you over. and that's okay. It's okay to feel. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to feel happy, sad, angry. It's fine to feel all of those. There's a really good movie called, what is the Emotions movie? Now I can't even think of it. Anyways, it's funny. There's going to be another one. Inside Out. Jeez Louise. That's a good movie. That's perfect for this. Anyways, let your walls down. They didn't work in the first place. That's what led us here. Let your walls down. Start rebuilding yourself from the inside out. Okay? That's what's going to be powerful, is foundational stuff. Man. Big stuff. By the way, I secretly hate this time of the year because it's 5:15 and it's like night. So stupid. Daylight savings time is such a sham. Anyways, enough of that tangent. You can be used, okay? Like, your mental illness doesn't take you out of any sort of qualification to make an impact in anybody's life. And your testimony is going to be so powerful because you know how to overcome the things that really used to entrap you. We're going to do all of this together. You know, this is all setting the stage to set these core values in motion that are really just going to line up with everything that's going to point north for all of us. So just really think about these things hard before I post about that, because it's very important. Can't really move to the next step unless you cement these inside of you. But don't think you can't be used. Don't think about that your story is not important, because it is. You know, for me, music's always just speaks to my soul. Always. And really, really recently, it just it's like a coping skill. You know, and I like worship music. You know, I also like country. I like a lot of types of music. But for me recently, you know, because my faith is my number one core value, worship music just really speaks to me. And there's a couple of songs. One is called Broken Hallelujah by the Afters, and this song stuck with me for so many years, ever since my dad completed suicide. But recently, as I was listening to this, it talks about when there's nothing left to hold on to, you know, when your walls are gone and you feel like you're standing on ashes, there's going to be beauty coming from that, okay? You're going to find out who you are, you're going to rebuild yourself, and you're going to be the best version of yourself that you can't even fathom who that person is. So don't think that just because everything around you has felt like it's collapsed, that it's over. It's not. Everything that around you collapsed because it's supposed to. That wasn't healthy, what we had. Those walls, all those things were not healthy. When they fell for a reason, because they weren't the right things helping us, and they collapsed under pressure. So that song speaks to me a lot. And then there's another one called God's Not Done With You by Torrin Wells, and it just really speaks to kind of what I went through with my mental health crisis. And you know, I speak a lot about my faith, and it is big for me. But just from a standpoint of just helping people, if you just take the Bible and just think of it as a giant metaphor, in that you don't have to believe what's in it, but you can just relate to some of the things, that's fine too. Because you can't say that, you know, you read the whole Bible. For one, I haven't even done that. For two, you can't say that and say that there's not one thing that was somewhat impactful. So if you don't want to believe the stories or any of the things in there, that's fine. But if you find something in there that's meaningful, doesn't mean you have to believe in it. It just means that that I can relate to that. So God's not done with you. For me, this is big, because when I went through that mental health crisis that led me into inpatient therapy, it was kind of like my blindness with Damascus Road with the Apostle Paul. Excuse me. In that time, it was like Jesus was tapping me on the shoulder and just whispering to me, like, hey, you know, God's not done with you. There's still a lot left to accomplish. You know, the enemy's not going to win this war with you. God's not done with you. That was big, because as I'm experiencing these things, and I know that my fight isn't physical, it's a very big mental fight, and I can relate so much to the Man at the Tombs, which I blogged about, and the Apostle Paul, and how no matter what happened, like, God wasn't through with those people. He's not through with me. And I'm not going to allow myself to fall to whatever the enemy's trying to throw my way, because I've been given this second chance to turn my story to get the other way, to help people, and I'm going to do it. And I know that I'm going to get tested. I know that there's things that are going to come up that are going to make me question a lot, but I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm not going to let it turn me to the side. I'm not going to let it pull me from my true north. So music's been big for me, and these things have been really big. And there's been a verse in particular in Romans 12, verse 2. It says, like, do not be conformed to the behaviors and customs of this world, but let your mind be transformed by God. That's exactly what happened to me. Exactly. I've become a new person. I look like the same Shane, but I'm a different Shane in my mind and at my core. I'm a different person. That was big, because I don't see the world the way that I used to, and I don't really, there's some things that go on in this world that I just don't really, I don't really associate myself with. It doesn't bother me. It just doesn't associate with me, which is fine. And that doesn't help me point to my true north. We'll just put it that way. Some people enjoy doing things like that. That's, for me, it's a no-no. So as we go through this, I had to talk about this. And for those that don't believe in God, that's, I apologize that I'm talking. Well, no, I don't apologize. So I'm just going to talk about this because, for one, this is my vlog. For two, I hope I can relate to you. I want to relate to you. I don't think any less of anybody that has a different faith or doesn't have faith. I don't at all. This is just what works for me. But this is so powerful. So find your true north. Know that whatever mental health illness that you encounter does not define you. Your true north defines who you are. These core values, this personality stuff, this is all going to matter immensely. Okay? I certainly don't think that you're a problem. Okay? And anybody that does just lacks empathy, because there's no reason to think that somebody else is a problem when really it doesn't really affect them in a way. So, chew on this for a little bit. I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to watch the Husker game. They play Wisconsin, and hopefully beat some Badger butt. So, enjoy the rest of your night. Really think about this, because this is very important. Really important. All right. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we're going to get through this together.